And so in this sense, I'm an eternal optimist. I'm an optimist in the long view. I think mankind is going to be able to deal with all of its problems. I think we can deal with all of our war problems, our famine problems. We can deal with all the environmental, ecological problems. We can do it. And in fact, I think we're too fucking selfish to do anything else. Because in the end, it's our selfishness which will keep us from destroying ourselves. Because we're just too selfish to kill ourselves. See, now, will a lot of people get hurt in the process? Of course they will. They always have. That's always been the case. There will always be casualties and collateral damage and innocent people getting run over by this machine that humanity is. But then again, do you have a better idea? See, it's easy to sit there and to criticize about how awful humanity is, but what else? What other game is in town? You got a better way of managing 7 billion people? Even though right now we live in the Dark Ages, this era will be known as the Dark Ages by future generations. Hundreds of years from now. We are in the Dark Ages scientifically, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, politically. So even though we are in the Dark Ages, I'm still very optimistic because we have, from the darkness, the only other alternative to darkness is light. You see? And we are right at that point now that we have the knowledge and the understanding. That's the crucial thing. We have the understanding to really get our shit together. By which I mean we have the spiritual understanding, we have the psychological understanding, we have the metaphysical and existential understanding that is necessary to understand what drives all of mankind and what unifies all of mankind, which is the desire for love and consciousness. Now it's just a matter of how long is it going to take to spread all this information, the high quality information, out to the masses. Because right now, there's a lot of high quality sources happening on YouTube, but there's also a lot of low quality sources, creating a lot of noise and turmoil, and people are not able to differentiate between what's the good stuff, what's the bad stuff, what should be trusted, what shouldn't be trusted. This process has to play itself out. It's going to probably take us another 50 years to really resolve all this and to start to upgrade our education system, to start teaching this new material, the material that I talk about so much on this channel. This has to get spread out through official channels like the education system into the mainstream media and elsewhere. That will take time to happen, and there will be a lot of resistance to it, and there will be a lot of noise in the meantime, a lot of conspiracy theories and distractions and red herrings and so forth and traps. So you as an individual don't get trapped by that, but also don't be surprised that a lot of your friends and colleagues will fall into it. We should expect that. It's all part of this democratization process. See, once we really upgrade our education system and we start teaching these fundamental spiritual, metaphysical, conscious concepts to people early on and get them not just to learn it as a dogma, but to actually experience it, to feel it, to start to understand things like spiral dynamics and so forth at an early age. That is going to create sort of a new metaculture that's going to link us together. What we're really missing now is some sort of vision for what America could be if we work hard together over the next 50 years. That's what's really missing. I don't see any politician really articulating that vision. There's so much we can do as Americans if we get our shit together. If we come together and we really want to grow and we start to educate ourselves and we start to take seriously the idea of lifting everybody up, helping everybody raise their consciousness. In the meantime, as we're doing that, we're also spreading opportunity across laterally to all the marginalized groups. And if we act fearlessly, America could set the next prototype for what all the other nations in the world could be, moving us into Spiral Dynamics Tier 2 level of governance with all the intellectual power and economic power that we have, and all the cultural power that we wield still through Hollywood and through the media, because the whole world is basically watching us and following us culturally. So in a sense, we're doing a great disservice to other nations. Other nations are starting to outpace America in certain ways because we're so fragmented and so polarized. We're just kind of running around with our heads cut off like a chicken with no sense of direction. But also, I understand this is totally necessary. This is a necessary phase for America to go through before we find a new sense of direction and vision. See? And there's a lot of resistance. So a lot of what you're seeing, a lot of the turmoil you're seeing, a lot of the confusion and noise in the media and elsewhere that you're seeing, violence and so forth, a lot of it is coming from people who are being left out from the prosperity and from the development. You see, what's not going to work is it's not going to work to take half the country and to lift up half the country, but the other half stays where they are. That can't work. So the part that wants to rise up needs to figure out a plan to help elevate those parts that are struggling to rise up. That's part of the challenge. We can't just, as progressives, we can't just look at conservatives and just call them idiots and morons and just kind of like leave it at that. That's not going to resolve the problem. We need to figure out a way how to get them to see what we see, to buy into our vision, to help them along economically, culturally, whatever, to understand their point of view. And of course, many of them will resist. And the reason that happens is at any given point in time, you take a society, you can take that society, you can cut it in half. Half of that society will be progressive, half that society will be conservative, roughly speaking. Half of that society will be on the upper end of the spiral, half that society will be on the lower end of the spiral. And of course, the lower end of the spiral is going to resist moving up to the higher end of the spiral. The higher end of the spiral half is going to look down at the lower half and is going to like do a face palm, wondering how ignorant and stupid they are. But at the same time, it's the higher half's responsibility to find a way to elevate the lower half. Because the higher half is more conscious and more loving by definition. It's higher. And therefore, it's more capable of doing that. And in the end, how do you elevate the lower half? Consciousness, love, understanding. Fundamentally, those are the principles. And then, of course, how that actually gets manifested and fleshed out in practice, that can all, that the devil of all that is in the details. See, the more conscious and loving you become, the less interest you have in controlling others. The less interest you have in power. And so naturally, you want democracy because you want everybody to experience life at your level. And life at your level of high consciousness and high development is you take a lot of responsibility and ownership for your creation of reality. You are the creator of your reality. And of course, by being the creator, you take on the responsibility and the autonomy. You create consciously. And then you can be entrusted with more power without worry that you're going to abuse it or get corrupted by it. And that's sort of what all of life is leading towards, is becoming more powerful as a creator, more conscious, more loving. All these go hand in hand, more selfless. Fundamentally, the reason our society is so fucked up and has been for thousands of years, and will be for probably hundreds more, is because we're too selfish. Too many of us are too selfish. Not the elites are too selfish, but ordinary, average people are too selfish. And nothing is going to fundamentally change until you become less selfish. That is true both individually for your own life and for the collectives that you're a part of, whether it's your family, your business, your town, or your country, or your species, your planet.